it's a recipe for disaster, some are saying. On one side, you've got Democrats who refuse to deal with Republicans. At the other side, you got the Republicans who say, look, you know, we're dug in on this particular issue. They don't like Obamacare. First they wanted to defund it, then they wanted to delay it, then they wanted lawmakers to vote on whether or not the lawmakers, should get subsidies. And then yesterday, the Republicans all showed up to negotiate with Democrats. Not a single Democrat showed up. That picture, I believe, was tweeted out by Eric Cantor.
And this is Senator Ted Cruz's endgame. He knows, and people figured out, that they didn't have the leverage to negotiate, even as much as Obamacare had 19 separate things that had to be waived or put on hold, people exonerated, but still they wanted to fine-tune Obamacare, but they did not have the leverage to get that done. The president seeing an opportunity to get his admitted his second term off the mat and standing up after a disastrous series of overseas diplomatic pitfalls, now all of a sudden finds himself back on the campaign trail with a common enemy, a familiar enemy, anybody with an R, any member of the GOP.
Well, and anybody with a pulse on the Democratic side just didn't show up. I mean, Republicans essentially were negotiating against themselves. You see, you can negotiate against thin air, and then you have the president here who's not getting involved, and we're asking him to step up. I mean, isn't he the boss? Chris Christie even said, if this is my issue, I'm getting in there. Everybody's in the room until we get this thing figured out. But no.
Right, but no. And see, the Democrats have, and Harry Reid has become Dr. No, essentially. And what's happening now, I think people across the country are starting to go, okay, so let me get this straight. The Republicans are ready to deal. They want to do something. We don't know what exactly, but the Democrats won't even talk. I mean, the President of the United States, as we told you last week, he's willing to negotiate with Iran, but he's not willing to negotiate with Republicans.
But the polls indicate right now that the president has no urgency to deal with the Republicans. He's benefiting from this. And the American people, for the most part, are blaming Republicans. And until those polls get even, they're not coming back. I'm telling you, if Harry Reid stays to the sideline, unless he gets a clean resolution, the only thing that would change his mind is the American people stood up, and when the pollster called your house, don't say we're eating, answer the question and say, no, I blame both.
Right.
That'll get the president to the table.
If you remember, this president said when he was he was a senator running for president, he said, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to change things, and I'm going to get stuff done. I'm going to sit in a room, and like Chris Christie said, and I'm not going to leave until I to, bring bipartisanship back. Well, now, fast forward to today, what's going on in Washington is awful. I mean, the fact that the President of the United States will not negotiate, that Democrats will not negotiate, the government is shut down partially, and that's one of the reasons why the President has canceled a trip this weekend to Malaysia.
That's right. Apparently, John Kerry is going to go instead.
Yes.
Right?
The Secretary of State hasn't put enough miles in, so now he's going to go represent the president in a very vital area of the world, which is up and coming. I also think it's important to point out, too, that a lot of people are right at military bases. If you're a civilian serving in those bases, you're asked to stay home. Some 800,000 people are sitting there just having Rheingold Light at home at their local pub playing darts because they have nothing to do. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, this is disaster.
It is for those people, indeed. But remember 2011? The president, he put the full court press on the NFL when they were in their lockout, remember? And they said, if you guys, if the owners and the players can't come together and figure something out, it's just plain silly. He wanted something to get done then, but yet he won't insert himself here to actually bring the parties together.
And